Greetings from Costa Rica and welcome to our live Friday, July 4th broadcast here. It's a pleasure to have you joining me on Independence Day. Really, I hope that you're all out there celebrating with family if you're in the US. But I did want to get online today no matter what and talk about a huge shift in the real estate market south of Tamarindo, Guanacaste, today, because really, I do try to keep my viewers informed as to what's going on here in the areas south of Tamarindo. And if you're not familiar, I'll just explain quickly. We're down here in this area. You can see the blue dot is exactly where I'm located here in Guanacaste. We just saw a significant change to the real estate market anywhere south of Hacienda Pinilla. Pinilla is this large golf course gated community. Down in Avellanas, Playa Negra, and Playa Junquillal is where you're going to see this dramatic change that we'll be discussing today. As always, I want to keep things educational, and we'll be discussing some of the bigger issues at hand and specifically the water ministries and different actors here in Guanacaste. So as always, if you're interested in exploring Guanacaste real estate, I do serve the areas that are, essentially between Potrero and Marbella. You can email me at matt@costaricamatt.com if you're beginning to look in any of those areas. Today, we're going to be talking specifically about those areas south of Tamarindo that we mentioned. Again, happy 4th of July to everybody out there joining me from the U.S. Without further ado, we'll get started talking here a little bit about this fundamental shift in our real estate market. Well, you might have guessed based on my allusion to water ministries earlier, a little bit about what might be going on. And in our area, we have essentially just had a massive change to the water availability for new construction and permits, really in development segregating lots. If you've watched my channel before, you've heard me speak about IEA, which is the National Water Ministry here in Costa Rica. IEA is the absolutely overarching national government ministry in charge of the distribution of potable water. And really, it's a huge, important component of the Costa Rica government because, water is administered at the community level through asadas. There are countless asadas throughout Costa Rica. I did not Google how many asadas there are, but basically every community administers their own water resources through these asadas that are essentially committees of people from the community who volunteer to participate in the local water board. They do have some paid employees with some of these organizations, and at times IEA directly administers local asadas, those water distribution centers, water distribution systems that exist at the community level. To give you an idea, here in our area, Hacienda Pinilla and this area up here near Pinilla has its own asada. In Tamarindo, you have an asada. You have a separate one in Villarreal. La Garita Nueva, that's home to a different asada than Playa Grande. And so you really have this sort of, local control and administration of water. In our area, the water distributor is based in Paraíso, down here at the base of the mighty Nandamojo watershed. Our water distributor has wells in this area, and then they essentially have pipelines that run all the way up to Avellanas, supplying water. Well, one of the great things that I love about this area is always that we haven't had, this watershed. The basin itself is a great source of water. However, our asada recently has clearly been overextended, and you've seen that yes, there have been shortages. In Avellanas, specifically up north, there were distribution problems where, yeah, they built a pipeline up to Avellanas that then could not meet the need that the community had. So they've had some major distribution issues in that area. So the huge news and what has fundamentally shifted our real estate market is that recently, AYA, the national ministry, intervened in our local community asada. Essentially, what they did was issue a declaration saying that the asada of Paraíso and Junquillal, this local distributor that's in charge of Junquillal, Negra, and Avellanas, the declaration says that they can issue no new water service letters until further notice. Now, what is that further notice? Well, at least our understanding of the situation as it evolves is that first, our ASADA will have to do technical studies that currently are lacking, really based on water distribution, the need, the capacity, our aquifers, etc. And then based on those studies, improvements have to be made in order to give new water service going forward. So really, this is a huge change because previously, any piece of undeveloped land in our area was unaffected by a potential limit on water. And really, you could have previously depended on the ASADA giving a new connection. However, that has obviously changed overnight. And it's important to note, though, that the existing water commitments that our ASADA had made will be honored, and they will have to fulfill the water availability letters and those capacity commitments that they've made to developments. Really, you're going to see that in Avellanas and Playa Negra, there are projected developments that can still move forward. In Avellanas, we're talking about New Mandi, we're talking about Ave Moana, and another third condominium project that's right downtown in Avellanas. All of that can continue forward because the ASADA has to honor its existing commitments. However, you will not see new projects undertaken here in the near future because of this limit on the ASADA. The absolute change that will provoke is that, so really you have to have a water availability letter in order to build here in Costa Rica. And obviously you have to have water availability. You have to have water availability in one form or another in order to segregate developable properties. So now that the local ASADA cannot issue these letters, the only options for prospective developers in our area, and there are options, are really going to be to drill their own well, get those wells certified, and then use that as their water source. I can say for a fact that will not happen for private developments. You will see that people will be able to drill individual wells on their own property and perhaps get approvals for either single structures or very limited smaller developments. But basically, this water hiatus is definitely going to cause two big changes. First and foremost, those lots that have an existing commitment, or if they have an existing water meter, well, obviously those have become very much more valuable. Yes, pigs. Thanks very much for joining me today. And also, Finca Boca Las Ranas. Always appreciate you joining me as well. Christopher, appreciate you tuning in. I should have given these shout outs earlier. And finally, Sandra, happy Independence Day from Arizona. Essentially, yes, the undeveloped lots are going to change in value due to that supply-demand crunch that Pigs is mentioning there. And the development that you see in our area is going to be limited to those existing projects. You are not going to see new projects undertaken. And for those of us, so to go back and talk a little bit about this area, a lot of people who are looking at real estate often decide that Tamarindo and the areas north are too developed and that there are too many people up there. They look down here, and I've heard from a lot of people who have the concern that, oh, well, this area could be the next Tamarindo or the next Nosara, and you might see hyper development quickly. Well, I can tell you that this hiccup in providing new water service letters is certainly going to change the trajectory of our area in the near term. You're not going to see that immediate explosion. And for people like me who really love living in a quieter area, it is actually a very, there are some positive things to this water service hiatus. I wanted to mention previously, I had not given enough credit to the people involved in these asadas. It is a thankless job. They are volunteering their time. And I certainly never want to criticize the people who are volunteering their time on these boards, trying to make these water situations work out. You've definitely seen that it's tough for them to balance what that national ministry wants to do with all of the community's needs. And yes, in our area, you've definitely seen that those poor ASADA board members, the administration, have had to deal with some pretty big complaints. People who now have a lack, or are not going to be able to get their water meter, and it's very tough for them to juggle all of that without just quitting their jobs and walking away from what is a volunteer position. So thanks to everybody on the ASADA. Muchísimas gracias a los miembros de la Junta de la ASADA de Paraíso y Junquillal. Yo sé que es un trabajo sin compensación, sin ningún pago ni nada. I also wanted to mention, folks, just before I leave you today here to enjoy the rest of your 4th of July, if that's what you're up to, I just listed one of the very few truly beachfront condos here in Guanacaste, Costa Rica. Yes, this is a project with an existing water connection, so you obviously don't have a problem with the previous content of this broadcast. But at $460,000, this is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,300 square foot condo where you walk out from your lanai across this pool area and then right onto the gorgeous sand of Playa Boca del Venado. This condo, right in front of there, the complex, you actually have a great swimming spot tucked into this little sort of rock area. You see the people at Las Brisas often enjoying swimming out there. There is also a surf break off the coast just a little bit for those of you who love surfing. So this condo is now my newest exclusive listing. If you want to know more about it and find out how you can acquire one of the few titled beachfront condos for sale in Guanacaste, Costa Rica, be sure to email me at matt@costaricamatt.com. Without anything further, I will say thank you to everyone for joining me on Independence Day. MR, absolutely. I agree. Rather see it stay small. Thanks for joining me today. Have a great July 4th. I look forward to seeing you next Friday, July 11th. Pura vida, and have a great weekend.